Police, I've been shot.
You've been shot? Where are you at, ma'am? Tell me where you are, ma'am. Where are you at?
At the Calvary Church on
Ma'am,
Rae Road.
Are you near Calvary Church?
I passed it on the left, and I kept straight. I'm 8 months pregnant.
Can you tell what part of your body you're shot on?
My back, my neck.
On the morning of October 16, 1999, about half an hour past midnight, Cherika Adams, 24 years old and 6 months pregnant, was driving home through a middle-class suburban neighborhood in South Charlotte, North Carolina, when she was shot 4 times by a car stopping next to her. Seriously injured, she drove her BMW off the road onto the lawn of a private house and was able to make an emergency call via her car phone. In the phone call, she identified the driver of a car that stopped in front of her and made her brake just before the shootout as Rae Carruth, a former NFL player. In this maze of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied vehicle, and using a gun to attempt murder, today we will look into the case of Rae Carruth, who was found guilty of conspiring to murder his girlfriend and unborn child. Was he the real culprit? Or were charges against him fake? There were a few other co-defendants involved in the case. Well, you have to watch this video till the end to find out the details of his case. Let's begin. Early life and career of Rae Carruth. Rae Carruth, born January 20, 1974, grew up in Sacramento, California. He studied at the University of Colorado and played football for them. He was selected by the Carolina Panthers in the 1997 National Football League draft as a wide receiver and signed a 4-year contract totaling nearly $750,000 at the age of 23. In 1999, he sprained his ankle, and there were rumors that he would be a burden to the Panthers. A once promising career had begun to go wrong. Rae Carruth had arranged to meet freely. He became a father in college with another woman, but he was not present at the birth of that son, and he rarely saw the child in the years that followed. After losing a paternity lawsuit in 1997, he was required to pay child support of over $3,000 per month. He had also made poor financial investments, and in connection with his injuries and future earning potential, issues of his future earning potential were of great importance. Off the field, he preferred not to hang out with teammates often. He spent time with a questionable crowd that included 2 men, Michael Kennedy and Stanley Abraham, who were present with him when Cherika Adams was shot. How Carruth Met Adams. Rae Carruth and Cherika Adams met at a pool party in June 1998. They hit it off immediately, and that same day, Adams took Carruth to meet her father, Jeff Mooney. Carruth and Adams hung out from time to time before meeting again at a club where Adams worked in November 1998. They saw each other more regularly after this meeting. In April 1999, Adams learned she was pregnant. Rae Carruth, who was already the father of another woman, asked Cherika Adams to have the child aborted, but she wanted to have the baby. This allegedly angered Carruth so much that he planned and hired a killer to kill Adams. On the day of the attack, Carruth took Adams to a movie date before taking her to a remote area so a hitman could shoot her. According to the plan, Carruth and Adams drove in separate cars after the film, with Carruth at the helm. Carruth stopped at a hollow on the road and Adams drove to the side behind him. The hitman pulled up in a third car next to Adams and boxed her before shooting into her vehicle. Carruth raced away from the scene. While Adams was left struggling for her life on the road, Carruth was at the home of Panthers teammate Hannibal Navies playing video games with him. These details became known during the court proceedings. Adams birthed a boy before death. After being left to die on the side of the road after the shooting, Cherika Adams managed to call 911 and get help. At Carolina Medical Center, she gave birth to a baby boy via an emergency C-section. However, Adams remained in critical condition. The baby was born with cerebral palsy due to complications caused by gunshots. For some time after giving birth, Cherica Adams became conscious enough to write notes to her mother, Sandra Adams, and the police. Both the distress call and the notes became crucial pieces of evidence in the later trial, as they implied Carruth's role in the shooting. While doctors were initially hopeful that Cherica Adams will recover, her condition deteriorated and she fell into a coma. After that, she never woke up again. She suffered from multiple organ system failures resulting from the gunshot wounds and was put on life support. She stayed on life support for almost 2 months, but her condition only worsened. On 14 December 1999, Adams' mother decided to take her off life support, and she died. Investigations and arrests. Immediately after the incident, the police investigation immediately focused on Carruth based on Cherica Adams' emergency call, her statements to police at the scene, and the notes she wrote a few hours after she was admitted to the hospital. On November 19, 1999, police arrested 24-year-old Michael Eugene Kennedy of Charlotte, who allegedly rented and drove the car from which the shots were fired.
Hill, and then down in the dip. Then he stopped his car. She stopped behind his. I stopped behind her. Then Watkins told me to pull up beside her car. So I pulled up beside her car, and he started shooting her car.
Kennedy had a long record of assault and drug offenses dating back to 1994. Rae Carruth was arrested on 25 November 1999, charged with conspiracy to murder, and taken into custody. Also arrested on the same day on the same charge was William Edward alias Brett Watkins from New York. Often referred to as a career criminal, 40-year-old Brett Watkins had a long history of violent crime and allegedly fired the shots that hit Cherica Adams. Aside from them, a 19-year-old boy, Stanley Drew Abraham of Charlotte, believed he was a passenger in the car with Watkins and Kennedy. He was also arrested on 2 December 1999. Hitman Brett Watkins. Brett Watkins, who pulled the trigger and shot Cherica Adams in her car, became one of the central figures of the trial because of his sinister presence. Watkins claims he killed 4 people before Adams, and he had previously been convicted of gun possession, assault, and threatening to kill different people. In the 1980s, Watkins set fire to a fellow inmate for talking about his family. Watkins was a hostile witness in the trial of Rae Carruth. Even today, he says he wants Carruth dead because he implicated him in Adams' murder.
It's not over yet, Rae. It's not over long as I live.
Carruth literally offered $6,000 to Brett Watkins to kill Cherica Adams. Rae Carruth fled after Adams' death. Rae Carruth was released on $3 million bail on December 6, 1999, on the condition that he would not leave the Charlotte area until his trial and would present himself to the police if Cherica Adams died. Just 8 days later, Cherica Adams died, and the first-degree murder charge was added to others Carruth and the other 3 co-defendants faced. Instead of turning himself into the police, as was agreed in this situation, Rae Carruth disappeared. He convinced his girlfriend Wendy Cole to drive him away from Charlotte in the trunk of her car. However, his escape was short-lived. They made it to a Best Western in Wildersville, Tennessee, before the FBI tracked down Carruth's whereabouts. FBI agents responding to information from Carruth's mother discovered him hidden in the trunk of a car in the parking lot of a Wildersville motel. He was returned to North Carolina and held in prison until his trial. At the end of December 1999, what had been generally accepted was confirmed when DNA test results showed that Carruth was the father of Cherica Adams' child. Things became quite clear by then, and the suspected reason for the killing of Adams openly came out in front of everybody. 911 call recording was played in opening statements. Jury selection for the case began on October 23, 2000, and lasted nearly a month, resulting in a jury of 7 men and 5 women. As part of its opening statement on 20 November 2000, the prosecution played Cherica Adams' 911 tape.
I've been shot.
You've been shot. Where are you at, man?
I'm 8 months pregnant.
How'd this happen?
I was following my baby's daddy, Rae Carruth, football player.
Where's he
He was
at?
in the car in front of me, and he slowed down, and somebody pulled up beside me and did this.
And then where'd he go?
He just left. I think he did it. I don't know what to think.
Okay.
Her case focused on the fact that she had identified Rae Carruth to the dispatcher, again at the police at the scene at the hearing of a paramedic, and again at the hospital in the presence of a nurse, as subsequent witnesses were called for confirmation. Prosecutors revealed that Carruth had recruited Watkins and Kennedy to kill Adams because he did not want to pay child support. In addition to the $3,000 per month child support, he already paid for a child he fathered in California. The defense argued that Carruth was not involved in any conspiracy to assassinate Cherika Adams, that the motive presented was implausible given that Carruth was earning $650,000 a year at the time of the shooting, and that the shooting was an indirect result of Carruth's refusal to fund a drug deal. Case verdict. After 11 weeks and 70 witnesses, closing arguments on the case were heard on 15 January 2001. Prosecutors replayed the 911 tape, emphasizing the recording of the long series of phone calls between Rae Carruth and Brett Watkins in the weeks leading up to the shooting. For the defense, David Rudolph presented 10 points, all of which he argued raised reasonable doubts about the plausibility of the indictment. The jury began deliberations the following day, but 2 days later, after 11 hours of discussion, the foreman told Judge Lamb that they were split among all 4 counts. After repeating the jury's instructions, he asked them to keep trying. And on January 19, the jury announced their verdict, finding Rae Carruth not guilty of first-degree murder, but guilty of the other 3 counts. He was found guilty of conspiring to murder by using an instrument with intent to kill an unborn child and hiding a firearm at the occupied property. The jury found him not guilty of first-degree murder and spared him the possibility of the death penalty. He was sentenced to no less than 18 years and 11 months, and no more than 24 years and 4 months in prison. Under North Carolina's sentencing law, actual time served cannot be reduced to less than the minimum set by the judge, except for counting time spent in prison awaiting trial. It was a controversial decision, as the foreman later admitted that the jury had convicted Carruth of second-degree murder, which had not been charged against him in the case, and the absence of a conviction for first-degree murder was seen as a compromise. Do you think Rae Carruth was deserving of this leniency? Verdicts for other co-defendants. Brett Watkins, the hitman, has struck a deal for second-degree murder in exchange for testimony against Carruth. He has been sentenced to prison until at least 2046. While in prison, he told a reporter that he had previously committed 4 murders in other cities, but did not reveal any details. Kennedy served nearly 11 years in prison. He procured a gun for Watkins and drove the car used in the driven shoot. In particular, he testified in court against Carruth, although he had no plea deal. He was released in 2011. Abraham, a friend of Carruth's who was a passenger in the drive-by car, served less than 2 years and was released in 2001. Rae Carruth's Statements. Rae Carruth wrote 2 public letters in 2018, one of which accused Cherika Adams' mother, Sandra Adams, of telling lies about him. He also downplayed his relationship with Cherika Adams and applied for guardianship of Chancellor Lee Adams after his release from prison. In the second letter, Carruth said he was no longer seeking guardianship of his son. Released from prison after 19 years. Rae Carruth was released from prison in October 2022 after serving nearly 19 years in jail for conspiring to kill his pregnant girlfriend, Cherika Adams. He was under probation for 9 months. While talking to a reporter, Carruth said that he apologizes for the loss of a daughter, and he apologizes for the impairment of his son. He feels responsible for everything that happened, and he just wants Adams' mother, Sandra Adams, to know that he truly is sorry for everything. Sandra Adams raised her grandson during Carruth's imprisonment, and the child is now an adult. However, because of cerebral palsy, he is a disabled child. Carruth has expressed an interest in looking after his son upon his release, and it is good to see him willing to take responsibility for the child he tried to kill. If he has realized it earlier, he wouldn't have wasted 19 years of his life in prison. So, this was all about Rae Carruth's criminal case. If you found this case story compelling, don't forget to like the video and comment below with your take on it. Subscribe to the channel for more similar videos and hit the bell icon in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new shocking case. Until next time, stay safe, You never know what's lurking in the shadows.